You're watching Alaska's news source.
I think everyone's a little bit in shock and just trying to absorb the reactions.
Tonight, Alaskan political leaders are reacting as the major breaking news of President Joe Biden withdrawing from the presidential race continues to develop tonight. Since the news of the president's decision to leave the race broke shortly before 10 this morning Alaska time, there has been a growing chorus of national Democratic leaders, now even some Alaska Democrats, endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris, who the president endorsed this morning. We have been working all day on Alaska's reaction to that announcement as we look at what's next in the process for which Democrat will face former President Trump. We are only hearing from President Biden today through statements because he is sick with COVID-19. The president saying, in part, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek reelection, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term." The president says he plans to appear on camera and make a statement later this week. About 15 minutes after the president's first statement, he released a second statement endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris. The vice president thanked the president for his leadership and called his withdrawal from the race a selfless, patriotic act. She says she is honored by the president's endorsement and intended to earn the nomination. The vice president has already filed for candidacy for president with the Federal Election Commission. The Biden for President Committee has changed its name with the FEC to Harris for President, and Harris has withdrawn as a vice presidential candidate. The Democratic ticket will be formally nominated next month at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. Back in February, in the context of President Biden's age, our Washington News Bureau asked the vice president if she was prepared to step into this position.
I think one of the concerns that Americans have about the age is just older people have, more health issues. It's a real thing. What do you say to those concerns? And specifically, if he had to pass the powers to you for 1 second, 1 minute, heaven forbid, and I ask with all due respect, but, are you capable? Are you ready to step into the role and do whatever the country would need?
Absolutely ready.
And as you can imagine, this is having a ripple impact across Alaska politics all day. We have been talking to delegates scheduled to head to the Democratic National Convention in Chicago next month about the next steps. Just a short time ago, I talked with the party chair, who is also a delegate, and says he's pledging his support for Vice President Kamala Harris.
People I've talked to and that reached out to have said there's sort of sadness because they love President Biden, but there's also excitement about nominating Vice President Harris.
With the president abruptly ending his campaign, we're hearing from delegates, including several of Alaska Democratic delegates who are set to head to the convention next month, and some Republican delegates in Alaska just returning from Milwaukee. Lexi Elverton continues our complete coverage after speaking with some of those delegates. Lex?
Joe, many of these delegates, both Republicans and Democrats, are also Alaska state lawmakers. Senator Bill Wielechowski and Representative Andrew Josephson both called the president's decision courageous and something best for the country. A very different reaction from the Republicans, as you'll hear in a few moments. Senator Wielechowski and Representative Josephson say they haven't endorsed a candidate for president yet, and both also say they're supportive of Vice President Kamala Harris. As far as some of the Republicans we've spoken with today, some say President Biden should step down from office. Both Wielechowski and Josephson say Biden is fit to continue the rest of his term. Representative Josephson says Harris is the best and most qualified person to be the next president.
I think in the last couple days, the pressure has really been building and the sentiment has really started to shift, and the thought was that he probably would drop out. And, it takes a lot of courage when you're in elected office and you put your country before your own political ambitions, and that's what he did.
I'm pleased that this will suspend this discussion. I think it's, in the long run, going to be good for him to focus this next 6 months on his presidency. And I think it's important that frankly, that my party prevailed, given the other party's candidate. And I think this is the right path forward.
On the other side, State Representative Jamie Allard of Eagle River was one of 29 Republican delegates who pledged support for former President Trump and his vice president pick, J.D. Vance, last week at the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee. This is what she had to say this afternoon about President Biden no longer running for office.
I don't think that impacted me at all, and I don't think it impacted the constituents in my district. And I say that because we're going full speed ahead with President Trump, getting him elected with our Vice President, J.D. Vance. So anything the Democrats have done has just been a disgrace, and they've just destroyed the country, and we need to move forward.
In a statement, Alaska Republican Party Chair Camilla Warfield, who was also in Milwaukee, called President Biden a, quote, disaster, going on to say, quote, it does not matter who the Democratic presidential nominee is, they will continue to advance the disastrous policies championed by Biden, Harris, and Peltola that are destroying our country. I'm reaching out to other Alaska delegates who will be at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago next month. You'll hear from them when you see me tonight again at 10. Joe?
Thank you, Lex. Nearly 7 hours after the president's announcement, Senator Lisa Murkowski is the only Alaska congressional delegation member to respond so far. The Republican saying, quote, I respect President Biden's decision to act in the best interest of the country by stepping aside in the 2024 presidential election. A different tone from former President Trump, who called Biden a fraud in his statement. His campaign also out with a lengthy statement. They quickly tied Harris to Biden's record, including immigration, inflation, the war in Afghanistan ending. The Trump campaign ending their statement by saying, quote, the question then to Kamala Harris is simple. Knowing that Joe Biden withdrew from the campaign because of his rapidly deteriorating condition, does Harris believe the people of America are safe and secure with Joe Biden in the White House for 6 more months? Trump's running mate, Ohio Senator J.D. Vance, calling Biden the worst president in his lifetime, taking a similar tone about Harris, saying, quote, she lied for nearly 4 years about Biden's mental capacity, saddling the nation with a president who can't do the job. And that gives you a sense of the state of the race as more Democrats are unifying behind Harris tonight. Many Republicans say the president not seeking re-election means he should immediately resign.